Welcome to Dinar Trend Tracker channel. Nobody anticipated this. No one, not the economists, not the investors, and not even the international financial institutions that believed they had everything under control. An economic tremor that started subtly in Hanoi and quickly spread over all continents roused the world today, October 20, 2025. The value of the Vietnamese dong, which has been regarded as one of the world's undervalued currencies for quite some time, has unexpectedly and formally increased dramatically overnight. In a state of utter confusion, dealers frantically squinted at their screens on trading floors spanning the globe, from Singapore to New York. Some have even gone so far as to call the revaluation a watershed event in the annals of modern economics. And now that everything has settled, there is one question that everyone in the financial industry is asking. For international marketplaces, what does this signify? Would other countries, like Iraq, be tempted to follow Vietnam's example by its daring move? Make sure you tune in. For the reason that what is going to be spoken will alter your entire world. The events in Vietnam started this morning, just before sunrise. Major news outlets and digital platforms were flooded with an unexpected government statement while most people were still asleep. The official revaluation of the Vietnamese currency has finally taken place, according to the Ministry of Finance, following years of secret talks, deliberations, and planning, reflecting what the administration has termed the nation's genuine economic strength. The world's currency nutjobs went into hyperdrive in a matter of minutes. $100 was equivalent to more than 2,300 Vietnamese dong for many years. However, there has been a marked change in that figure recently. Experts are hailing the new rate as a financial revolution for Vietnam's currency. The sudden and unprecedented flood of data and transactions caused major trading apps to momentarily go offline, shocking financial institutions around the world. All around the world, people were taken aback by the revaluation. There was an instant and intense response within Vietnam. Protesters chanted, sobbed, and snapped photos outside both Hanoi and Ho Chi Minh City's main banks as they watched the currency rates fluctuate in real time. Millions of Vietnamese people who had fought for dong's freedom for years saw this as more than simply a figure. A lifelong ambition was realized. One woman blurted out, "I can't believe it," as she wiped an eye. "It seems like all the years of my family's perseverance in clinging to dong have paid off today." The mood was electrifying across all social media platforms. The terms "heaviness rising" and "fade dong valuation" became popular around the world. It was a source of great pride for the Vietnamese people. A declaration that the world had finally begun to appreciate their economy and their efforts. The trading floors in Hong Kong, Singapore, and Tokyo, Seoul, three of Asia's financial capitals, descended into a state of controlled anarchy as analysts whipped out simulations, brokers yelled out orders, and emergency meetings were convened at the speed of light. Wall Street was hit hard within hours, and American investors rushed to make changes to their portfolios. Many in the market drew parallels to China's historic monetary policy shifts in the early 2000s, which similarly altered international trade. But this feels even bigger, they say. US, Japanese, and South Korean investments, together with technological advancements in manufacturing, have contributed to Vietnam's economy's gradual but steady expansion during the past decade. Still, the dong had maintained an artificially low profile throughout. In a way that boosted exports while hiding the country's actual economic potential. That time has come to a close. This choice apparently took some time to make behind the scenes. Officials from the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund, as well as representatives from Vietnam's central bank, reportedly met for months for high-level discussions. The objective was crystal clear: to establish Vietnam as a self-sufficient economic superpower that could take on regional behemoths like South Korea and China. It was like a proclamation of financial autonomy, according to one analyst. Several emerging countries were unstable, energy prices were rising in Europe, China's growth was slow, and big movements in global markets occurred at the same time as revaluation talks, according to reports, which had been going on since mid-2024. Vietnam swiftly and aggressively capitalized on a strategic opportunity. Reactions around the world varied from astonishment to cautious hope as word of the revelation circulated. Promptly after the decision, US and European financial institutions acknowledged it and called for market stability in remarks. However, official statements were not what traders and speculators were waiting for. Investors scrambled to purchase or trade dong, and within hours, currency exchange platforms experienced record-breaking volume. Overwhelming demand caused some platforms to briefly go offline. People waited in long lines outside currency exchanges in many Asian cities in the hopes of taking advantage of the new prices. "It's chaos," remarked a Singaporean exchange manager. "Dong is presently in high demand. To each and every one of you." A number of nations' central banks briefly halted transactions using the Vietnamese currency due to the surge's intensity, in an effort to avoid a market overload. But for the ordinary Vietnamese individual, this is a really intimate event. They have witnessed their country's meteoric ascent to prominence as a manufacturer of electronics, cars, and smartphones for quite some time. But their money was never a reflection of their power. Well, that's different now. Their savings now have more purchasing power, their wages are worth more, and their pride in their country is stronger than it was before. Economists predict that revaluation might increase domestic expenditure and consumer confidence by pushing millions of people into a stronger middle class. They do, however, caution that further difficulties are on the horizon, especially for exporters who may find that their production costs have increased. But it's obvious from the general tone of voice that Vietnam is experiencing a new economic renaissance. Some have compared this change in the value of the currency to the reconstruction of the Japanese yen following World War II, and they agree that it is a major event. Some have drawn parallels between Vietnam's decision and other watershed events, such as the resurgence of the Kuwaiti dinar and the economic awakening in China. However, one notable distinction exists. This did not constitute a post-conflict or post-war recovery. An act of boldness, self-assurance, solidarity, and national advancement, this was. Vietnam proceeded without waiting for international approval. It was independent in its actions. Investors, economists, and political leaders are abuzz tonight over that optimism. Could this lead to a surge of comparable reassessments in other underappreciated nations? A lot of people are already bringing up Ras as an example of a country that might follow suit. Investors and dinar holders in Iraq have been talking a lot about the revaluation of the Vietnamese currency. It is hard to deny the similarity. The Iraqi dinar has stayed depreciated in relation to its actual economic potential, much like Vietnam's currency, which was kept artificially low for decades to encourage exports. Now that Vietnam has proven it can be done, the question is whether Iraq will follow suit. Although the political and economic climate in Iraq is unique, experts believe that similar actions may be taken in the future due to the worldwide trend toward currency realignment. Many dinar investors find motivation and confirmation in Vietnam's success story, which shows that being patient with discounted currencies over the long run may yield exceptional returns. The nation, in a speech that was both strong and composed, delivered by Vietnam's Prime Minister via television. "We are celebrating a watershed moment in our nation's history," he declared. "We are now represented in our currency by qualities such as strength, resilience, and independence." His remarks resounded all around the nation. Gaining financial advantage wasn't the only motivation for many. Acknowledgement was the key. Appreciation of the fruition of Vietnam's perseverance, self-control, and strategic economic planning. The Prime Minister stressed that this change was not an unexpected favor, but rather the product of steady, purposeful development over many years. At the end of his speech, he pledged to keep the economy in check and make sure that everyone, not just the wealthy, benefited from Vietnam's economic growth. You can already feel the revaluation's direct impact. As investors flee to safer havens, the value of oil and gold has risen and fallen rapidly. The news caused a small decline in the dominating US dollar versus a basket of Asian currencies. Many large companies are currently reassessing their contracts, payrolls, and investment strategies in relation to their Vietnamese operations. A new reality has emerged for tech giants and businesses who depended on Vietnam's cheap production. Imagine a world where the Vietnamese people enjoy higher wages and their currency is widely used in international trade. Other Asian countries may be compelled to adjust their supply chains in response to this transformation or risk falling behind. According to financial experts, the Vanya has the potential to bring about a new age of economic dominance for Vietnam. Vietnam aims to establish itself as a trustworthy and self-assured global actor by bringing its currency value closer to its actual market worth. Vietnam has transformed from a cheap manufacturing hub into a burgeoning financial center, which has attracted the attention of foreign investors. To better handle the increasing number of financial opportunities, banks and hedge funds are getting ready to establish new offices in Hanoi and Ho Chi Minh City. The economic destiny of Vietnam's youth may hinge on this event. One in which their country is no longer a weakling relative to other regional powers but rather a proud partner. Nevertheless, enormous authority carries enormous duty. In the near future, as markets around the world adapt to this unexpected shift, economists predict short-term volatility. Initially, exporters may have difficulties due to the increase in the cost of Vietnamese goods abroad. A rapid adjustment in domestic pricing could lead to an increase in inflation. The government has already stated its intention to keep a careful eye on the markets and step in to restore equilibrium if needed. On the other hand, analysts agree that Vietnam's solid reserves and consistent trade surpluses put it in a favorable fiscal position relative to its regional peers. The nation is prepared to deal with the uncertainty, to rephrase. According to one foreign expert, this isn't a careless action. A nation that is well informed would accomplish something like this. The dramatic transformation in world psychology that occurred overnight is what makes this a truly remarkable occasion. For many years, the Vietnamese dong was considered a minor currency with little real impact on the international stage. However, it has now become front-page news worldwide. Vietnam is all anybody can speak about these days, whether it's Bloomberg or Reuters, YouTube finance channels or TikTok. Speculators who previously wrote it off as a minor player are now trying to make sense of how this change would affect different countries' currencies. Many also regard the revaluation as a symbolic attack on established economic power structures. A timely warning that rising powers are no longer sitting on their hands. They have settled into their seat at the table. An explosion of theories and comments has been going on in financial chat rooms, social media groups, and Telegram channels all day long. There are some who think Western banks were aware of this move beforehand. For some, this might be the first domino in a chain reaction that sees other undervalued countries abandon their currencies as well. The fact that Vietnam's action has rekindled worldwide discussions on financial system fairness is indisputable, even though most of these hypotheses have not been proven. Major currencies have put too much pressure on smaller nations for far too long. It takes guts and strategy to break that stereotype, as Vietnam has proven today. The previous day's record-high trade volume persisted throughout the evening. People waited in long lines to convert or hold dong at currency exchanges in Bangkok, Manila, and Kuala Lumpur. While some exchanges temporarily limited trading, others halted it altogether until the new rates were stable. The cautious statements issued by the IMF and World Bank acknowledged Vietnam's decision and emphasized the need for global collaboration to avert instability. Those warnings, however, were mostly ignored by the average Vietnamese civilian. Their newly acquired economic might was the center of their attention. What seemed like a fantasy to many became a reality. The revaluation is about more than just figures to them. A sense of accomplishment, optimism, and community in today's financial sector are at the heart of the story. The world is still staring at Vietnam, but in the next weeks, we will see just how drastic this change is, according to analysts. Can we expect this new valuation to remain stable? Is Vietnam's trade stance going to be strengthened or tested? Think the big economies will react this way? Rumors are circulating that other countries may think about doing the same assessments in order to stay competitive. Perhaps a new era of global economic adjustment, characterized less by dominance and more by rebalancing, is about to begin. The lesson for nations like Iraq is that they can change their financial fate with enough planning, persistence, and national unity. The world is witnessing a nation's ascent into a new era of confidence and wealth as twilight falls across Vietnam. The dong, which was formerly disregarded, is now a representation of bravery and metamorphosis. Investors throughout the world should take note. This is a proud moment for the Vietnamese people. Great change frequently comes silently until the day it doesn't, and for countries like Iraq, it serves as a reminder of that. This goes beyond a simple financial narrative. A nation that dared to take charge of its own fate is the protagonist of this tale of vision and perseverance. For all the latest developments as this historic event unfolds, be sure to stay tuned to Iraqi Dinar news. If this trend continues, the international monetary system might never be the same again.